In this video, we're going to look at Suffusion theme options for the header and footer setup. One note about header setup before we get started. WordPress has built-in header options, and if you're using Suffusion, I wouldn't recommend that you use the WordPress header settings. Suffusion allows for full customization and better control over the header settings. If you've uploaded an image to the WordPress header settings, you'll need to remove this header image. You can do that by accessing the header in the left navigation of your WordPress dashboard. If you see this tab, it means that you need to click it and remove the header image. After you remove the header image, you'll need to save the settings by clicking the Save button at the bottom of the page. Now let's take a look at the header options for Suffusion. To get to the Suffusion Options dashboard from the WordPress dashboard, hover over the Appearance tab. Click Suffusion Options, and this will take you to the Suffusion Options dashboard. Click Other Graphical Elements. I usually leave the layout style set to the theme default, but you can play with these settings and see what the layout will look like. Next, you can choose how to align your blog title and blog description in the header. Initially, the blog title and blog description were set up when you installed WordPress. In the left navigation under Settings and then General, you can change the blog title and blog description if you need to. This Suffusion option and the one below allow you to position the title and blog description in a variety of ways, and you can choose to make them hidden if you'd like also. I personally like to hide the title and blog description and create my own headers, but you can also choose to display them and lay a graphic behind the background if you want. There are a number of ways to graphically display a header image, and we discussed this in a previous video when we covered skinning options. The Other Graphical Elements settings for the nav bar below the header is where you can actually activate the nav bar below the header. We discussed this in a previous video as well, but I want to run through these settings one more time. Here, you'll activate the nav bar or make it hidden. The presentation of the nav bar can be customized in the next setting. Just read through the description of each of these and get a feel for which one will meet your needs. Next, you can modify the way that the menu displays in the nav bar. You can have the menu items appear centered, to the left, or to the right. The theme default is a left-aligned menu. From here, you can also choose to display your menu items as individual tabs, or you can display them as a continuous list. The next two items affect how your drop-down menus will display when they appear. You can have a fade in, or you can have them appear instantly. There are a number of ways that you can have your home page appear in your navigation, and the easiest is to choose from one of these options. The home page can be displayed as a text link, or it can be displayed as an icon. Here you can choose custom text that will be displayed for the Home tab. And here you can define the order in which pages, categories, and links appear in the navigation bar. For the navigation bar, you can make some simple modifications to the text with these settings by selecting the option that most suits your needs. In the next setting, you can control the display of pages in the navigation bar. This section can be a little confusing, so bear with me. There are two options. The default option, which is the one on the right, shows a single tab that has a default title called Pages. If you hover over the Pages tab, you'll get a drop-down list of all the pages that you've included to be shown. You can change the default title in this tab from the word Pages to whatever you'd like to be shown in the navigation. You can also associate a link with the tab so that if the tab is clicked on, it will take the person to a specific page. Now, the other option is to show the top-level pages in the navigation bar and their subpages. This is the setting that I prefer to use. After you set these top-level pages to show, you scroll down and select the pages and subpages that you want to show. If you tick Include Selections from the next option, you'll then have to select the pages that you want displayed from this page selection menu. When you select Tier 1 pages and any subpage of those Tier 1 pages, they'll show up in your navigation bar. The Tier 1 page will show on the tab, and any subpages will show as a drop-down menu when you hover over the tab in the navigation bar. Just as with the navigation bar above the header, you can also place categories and links in your navigation bar, and these settings are identical to the settings for placing pages in the navigation bar of the header, so I'm not going to cover those right now. Now, scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page. Here is where you can control the display of the built-in WordPress 3.0 navigation menus. If you're seeing duplicate menus showing up in your navigation bar, chances are good that you've chosen to display both the WordPress 3.0 menus and also the menus that you've activated for Suffusion. What you'll need to do is you'll just need to select one or the other, not both. I personally would recommend using the WordPress 3.0 navigation menus for a couple of reasons. First, if you decide to change themes, the menu setting will remain the same. You'll just need to make sure that you have a theme that supports the number of menus that you're displaying. And second, with the WordPress 3.0 navigation, it's a little easier to customize your menus and place the menu items in a different order. Next, we're going to look at the footer options. Normally, the footer is used to display things like copyright and links to your privacy policy and disclaimer pages. You can choose different footer styles in this section, and below this, you can set the text and HTML that you'll show in the footer area. Suffusion allows you to set text and HTML on the left-hand side and also in the center of the page. The Posts and Pages Bylines options allow you to control the way that several things display on pages and posts. The author title, date published, and comment links can all be modified in this section. These things can be hidden or placed in several locations on the page to make the visual presentation more appealing. As with the settings just discussed for Post and Pages Bylines, the Post Format settings allow you to control the same settings when different format settings are used in a post. Let's take a look at a post for a moment. When you create a post, you'll see a box to the left titled Format. In this section, you can choose a specific format for your page depending on what type of content you'll be displaying. When you choose one of these over the default standard and want to modify the visual appearance of the post bylines from the default settings, this is done from the post format settings. The next section is titled Byline Configuration. This section allows you to further customize the bylines of the site using your own custom HTML. The Featured Content Slideshow option allows you to set featured content to appear on your site above the content of the page. This can help highlight important information that you want your traffic to see. The featured content appears as a slideshow at the top of the page below the header, and there are a number of visual options for the slider in these settings. You can also make the featured content slideshow appear on specific pages throughout your site. Next is the Breadcrumbs and Page Navigation options. Breadcrumbs is a navigational aid within some themes, including Suffusion, that allows visitors to understand their current location in the context of the website. This basically shows you where you're at in relation to the home page. Here's an example. This breadcrumb lists Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and so on. In these options, you can set where you want the breadcrumbs to appear, or you can choose to hide them altogether. You can also choose the general location on the page where you want the breadcrumb to show. Finally, in the Miscellaneous Options section of the Other Graphical Elements, you can set your site to show rounded or squared corners, and you can set some basic settings for image thumbnail generation that may be used to improve the way the images appear in the featured content of your blog posts. In the next video, we'll move on to the layout options for Suffusion theme.